just making sure that you don't wear what people say about you guys' season. And I think it's very easy for a lot of times when you talk to people about the engagement process, like, oh man, like
So
I don't know
hard.
how y'all making it. Y'all so it's just man, I know y'all counting like no, I'm like, no, we're good. Like we're actually enjoying the process. Like not saying it's sweet, not saying like it's not like, but I think like our words are so important, like our outlook on it things. And it's so easy to kind of just wear that um I guess the stigma of what it takes to plan a wedding, but you have to constantly fight through that. And I think we did that as well during our process.
What's up, fam? Welcome back to our channel. My name is Tim. This is my beautiful wife, Pauline, and you are tuning in to another episode of the W Podcast, where you get wisdom in the word with the
Wheeler.
Hey, so we have an exciting episode. I've been waiting for this one for months, and that's not cap. Like literally, I asked my guy to come on months ago, and I'm so excited because we're talking all about engagement. And honestly, we're coming up on engagement season, as some would say. A lot of people are going to be proposing. A lot of people probably should propose, shouldn't propose.
Whoa.
And there's a lot of things that are going into this time of year, but we want to help you practically prepare for it. And even if you're not dating at all right now, still make sure you tune in, because there's going to be something that you hear from this that's going to help you prepare when that time does come. And we're excited for it. We're having Raph and Karen join us. Honestly, it's special for us to have this episode. One, because the first episode or podcast or YouTube video we ever did together was on Karen's channel, which is crazy.
5+ years ago.
Crazy. Before we ever thought about having a YouTube channel.
At all,
so we're super grateful for her. And then I actually know Raph since college, over 10 years ago, which is crazy. So it's just such a full circle moment for us. We're excited to bring them on. I'm gonna let them introduce themselves because they'll do it much better. Raph and Karen, what's up, fam?
Hey, y'all.
What's up?
How y'all doing?
We are so excited to be here.
We're excited to have you all. And they're both Terps. We all went to the same college.
That's cool.
Which we're a little bit impressed about Terp couples because we're one. So we're happy and honored to have you all here.
That's
None of us dated in college.
Literally.
It was fun. If you don't know what a Terp is, it's for the University of Maryland College Park Terrapins. So make sure you fear
the best college in the state of Maryland, for sure.
Well, Raph and Karen, thank y'all so much again for coming on. We would love for y'all to just start it off. Tell the people a little bit about yourselves and we'll flow from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Babe, you want to go first?
I can. Yeah, sure. All right, what's up, everyone? I'm Raph. Like Tim said, we knew each other in college over 10 years ago. Karen, I actually, even though we went, she's only a year below me, never met her while at UMD. And Karen says all the time, it is a big school. And Karen says all the time it was for the best. I can definitely agree to that. But yes, this is my beautiful, wonderful fiance. We have been engaged now for 7 months, 7 months. We get married in 19 days. That's
okay.
But we know like a certain number is a little easier to keep up.
Yeah, that's literally my mind is literally focused on that right now. But it's been good. Just going through this process, going through this experience. There's no one I would rather be doing it with and have by my side. So yeah, that's me. I'll let you go ahead, Dave.
I'm Karen, also a fellow Terp, like we said earlier. I always get stuck when people ask these questions, but just a girl that loves Jesus, loves my family. I have 2 younger siblings, so I got that whole older sibling, issues. Personally,
we're both older siblings too, so we support.
See, you get it. I love to travel. I love to eat. Love to eat.
Raph, can you cook?
I can cook certain meals. Honey,
he can make some pretty fire and lemon pepper wings.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah.
You got to know your strengths in this life, and so I utilize them.
I think I'm definitely more of the cook.
For sure.
He's just gonna be the eater, Raph. You'll taste test. Okay.
He does a good job. But yeah, that's me. A little bit about me. I'm excited to be here. Super excited for the conversation we're gonna have.
Yeah, absolutely. So we already touched on it. y'all went to the same school, but y'all didn't know each other, even though y'all were there at the same time, pretty much. So how did y'all end up going from not knowing each other to dating? Like, how did that happen?
It all happened. Okay, so it's actually really funny because yes, we were only a year apart. And funny enough, like at least when I recognize most of Raph's friends, like probably 99% of them. I may have not known their names, but I recognize them from campus. Yeah. But I never seen this man before. Raph, I had never seen him. And I always tell him it truly was God's divine blessing. It was best. Because we were both a hot mess. But so we got introduced through a mutual friend at church. And it was literally like New Year's Eve 2021, babe. Like going into 2021 or going into 2022.
Yep.
Going into 2022, I was talking to one of my guy friends. And I was like, bro, like, I've known you for years. You brought me no one. Like, what's going on? Like, I need you to do better. I need you to do better. And then he brought up Raph's name. And I was like, I don't know who this man is. Sure, whatever. I wasn't, what's the word I'm looking for? I wasn't stressed about it. I was like, whatever. I was really joking when I was talking to my guy friend. So when he brought up the name, I was like, I kind of like shrugged it off. Mm-hmm. But apparently that night, he kind
of shrugged it off?
Yep.
What you say?
We'll talk.
All right.
Uh-oh, Raph, take notes. I need some verification on this.
Well, that same night, that friend also messaged Raph. And so he was like, yo, bro, I have a girl for you. I think she'd be great. And then that's how it started.
Wow. Shout out to friends.
Honestly, the friends should be the ones hooking you up. It really does help.
So
for sure.
I think first, just the fact that I know you were joking, probably half-heartedly.
Yeah.
But there was probably some truth to it. Like, yo, what's up? But just the fact that you were able to be honest about that, because I feel like some people wouldn't even verbalize how they really felt about it because of shame or whatever. But look at how that opened up a door for you.
Right. Yeah. No, I
think.
Go ahead, Karen.
I was just going to say, I think when you get to the point where like you really desire something, and if it's something that's healthy, right? Like you're not making it an idol, but marriage is something that the Lord wants for us to have. And so I got to a point where it's like, this is what I want. And then I also got to a point where I was like, there's so many amazing kingdom marriages around us. Like you guys are one of them. And it's like, you see what the Lord does when people come together. And so you have to understand there's beauty in God bringing people together. So that means the enemy doesn't like it. And so part of me being bold about, I want to get married is also like, no, this is something that like the enemy is trying to block from me. Yeah. And this is the gift that I want. So I'm going to be bold about my prayers, and bold when I say it, like, it's a good thing. It's something you should be proud of to be seeking. So what's my man?
That's so good. Cause I think it's very interesting if we notice how like inconsistent our prayers and our words are. Like oftentimes we're praying for like, God help me to lose weight, but then like you're eating Cheetos and like not working out, or you're saying like, oh God, like send me a husband or send me a wife, but then you don't, you're not getting yourself out there. You're not telling your friends, hey, I am looking, because not everybody is looking. Some people are just not at the place to date, and that's okay. But I think that your boldness, but also your just confidence and the desire that you have or that you had and have to be married, and to know like, this is good. This isn't something that I actually feel ashamed about asking help for, and knowing like, oh, I can trust this person, my friend, to like just share this with him. And if something comes of it, great. If something doesn't, then that's fine too. But I think there's so many people who are either watching or listening who have the same desire and same prayer that you had, but they don't tell anybody about it. And then they're like mad at God for not sending someone. He's like, okay, but have you used what I've put around you, like in your community? And people just don't use community as a resource. And it just shows how much gold there is there. Because our story is similar, where like people connect. Well, it's kind of somewhere where people were involved, and we wouldn't have gotten together if it wasn't for, listening to other people. But a lot of times people think literally God is going to drop their spouse like on their front door.
Yeah. I wish. That'd be actually nice and easy, but no.
So Raph, from your perspective, it's New Year's and this guy hits you up like, bro, I know someone that you should consider. Because I want to ask you this because a lot of times in the Christian space, it's like we met and 3 months later we got married. And it's like, yo, what was the context in between? So what happened after that? Did y'all go on a date right after that? Did you take some time to kind of learn who this was?
Yeah.
What did that look like?
Oh yeah, for sure. So it's so funny because, and I want to give honor where honor is due. Ife is our connect. Some people might know him that go through Union Church, but he is our connect. He's a great guy. Actually, funny enough, he's going to be one of my grooms. But it's funny when he had texted me that night, he didn't even tell me who it was. He just said like, "Hey, I have someone for you." I was like, "Okay, like, what do you mean? Like, who is it?" He was like, "Nah, I don't feel like telling you right now." And it's funny because it's funny because this is going back to what Karen said. You have to know what you want, and in that season, I was kind of spying the land with another young lady at the time, and Ife being a co-star.
No. Here's a 10%
Hey. I was finding the land with a young lady at a time. Nothing ever like official or anything like that by any means. Actually didn't even ever even go on a date or anything. But Ife had known about that process and whatnot. And so he wanted me to kind of actually like just see it through, right? And I think
that's a good friend.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so like it took me going through that process of seeing it through, and I prayed and just kind of asked God, hey, I don't want to, just because I've shared with maybe other people that I might be interested in this person, to let this stop this from potentially continuing to move forward to find who's actually really right there for me. And I remember talking to him later that month in January about the same person. I was like, I feel like I'm ready to kind of make that next step. This person, I don't think they're necessarily like the right fit for me. And he was like, is this what you really believe that God's best for you? And I was like, I don't think so. I don't think this is God's best for me. And so when I finally made that choice, like, okay, I'm going to end this situation, it's like, I want to feel like it's like my eyes open wide open. And I had always seen Karen, and had even in between then, I kind of like put the two and two together, like, okay, this girl might be also showing some interest too in me as well.
You're dropping hints, Karen?
Yeah.
Hey, listen, you gotta let them know.
Yeah. And so as she was dropping hints and nothing like, I obviously like putting herself out there like where she's just looking, any type of way, but like I took all that and took inventory, and I was like, hey God, like, I'm gonna trust you. And Ife gave me the decision. And it's funny because I feel like when you're dating in the church, you're always worried about like perception. Okay, you just kind of like spied the land and like, oh, like this is Karen, like she's Miss Union updates. If I mess this up,
very visible, yes.
Yeah, and I don't want to leave the church. I love Union Church. So I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, oh, this got to work. And it really had to become a decision in my heart. And Ife gave me this advice as well. You're not powerful enough to ruin your own life. And I think a lot of times we stay in that hesitancy because like, I want to make this right. It's the right fit. Like, no, like go on that date, get to know that person, trust God. And even if it's not the right fit, he'll be able to kind of redirect your path.
Absolutely.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that, because I feel like there's so many guys who need to hear that, or women too. Because like you said, no matter what church you go to, when you're in that context, it does seem like there's so many eyes on you if you make a mistake or if the relationship doesn't work out. Yeah. And then put into perspective, if somebody is connected to a lot of people at the church, you may feel that pressure even more. So that's really great advice, to stop worrying about yourself so much and really put your trust in God and just take that next step. And hopefully you're not going to be out here acting crazy anyway. So you're not going to make it yourself.
Right.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think that's so. First of all, I appreciate you guys being so transparent, because all people just be like, "Oh, we got connected and now we're married," and it's like, all right, let's be honest.
Y'all got to know the details.
But seriously, because so many people are like get so tripped up because as Christians we like to sugarcoat things, and then like you hear people's story, and then when other people are actually in it, they feel like, oh, this isn't God because it's not perfect, because it's not in a very clear cut. Like that's what, when we told the story about how like I was working part-time. I didn't have a full-time job when we started dating. Tim was in college. Like, we didn't have any money. Like, we weren't really like at a place to like be thinking about dating. That like set a lot of people free, because it's like, hey, sure, you can have this kind of desire and like kind of, idea of what you want your dating story to look like, but also it's not going to be, if it was perfect, you wouldn't need God. If he was like, oh, this is pristine man or woman, they've never been touched, they've never done anything wrong, they have no debt, they have no family drama, they're completely healthy, like nothing's wrong with them, then you wouldn't really need to pray and ask God through every step of the process. Like, because dating is a process, whether it's 3 months long or whether it's 3 years long. Everybody has a process to walk through, and it's supposed to bring you closer to the Lord, if you do it right. It should be something where you're like, thanks God, I'll see you at the altar. And then like you do your own thing. So I appreciate you guys sharing that, like, this wasn't, super, we had to make some decisions. Raph had to make some decisions and walk through what he wanted. And Karen, I definitely want you to share more about how you dropped hints, because girls really struggle with that. And I know that you're a woman of class, so I know you didn't make yourself look crazy, but you still did what you need to do. Because someone could look at you and be like, why would Karen ever need to drop hints? Like, guys should be lining up at her door from jump. So talk to us more about what you did. And even there's some things you didn't do before you guys got to the place where you're like, all right, we're really, we're interested in each other.
Yeah. I think for me, dropping hints looked like making sure that I was just like in position. And that sounds like overly the top, but it's just like around that time, there was a lot going on in church in terms of just like activities. And so because I was aware of who he was, I was around, not just because I wanted him to see me, but I also wanted to see him. I didn't know him. And so it was important for me to just also see him like interacting with people and stuff like that. And so as I was looking to see how he was interacting with people, I just made sure I look real cute. Like, you're going to know me.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Like, we had this one shoot. I think we had a conversation. And he said something about like, you're funny. I don't know what it was, but I know I made him laugh. And I think I'm pretty hilarious. So it wasn't that I was being outside of myself, but I think sometimes it's easy when we are like interested in someone to do to hide. When we really are supposed to be doing the opposite, like just be yourself. And and so for me, it was like it's just myself around him and myself, wherever you are, it doesn't matter. Like, if you're someone that is generally put together, whatever your best self is, I always try to present that everywhere I go. It doesn't matter who it is. And so I was just presenting that to him. It wasn't so many like extra and over the top. Add something. It is easier for me to drop hints because I don't drop it with a lot of people. So what may seem like it's easy for people to catch on, I might be interested in you, because it rarely ever happens. I don't do that for most people. So I don't have to do too much for you to know, because when you look at my norm, you are able to see the stark difference very easily.
That's so good.
I would say it makes it a little easier.
Yeah.
No, I love that.
You gonna share that one hint though, the final hint that you dropped, or not?
Which one? The flowers one?
Nah, Bruce Riley. When okay,
so this one was a mistake. This one was a mistake. So our friend had told us that this was around the season where one of the church locations was launching. And my friend had told me that he was going to be there. I was going to be there too, because naturally I work for the church. And so I had to go to the launch. And we were having a conversation. And as we were heading out, I was like, I'll see you on Sunday. And I wasn't supposed to know that he was supposed to be at the launch. And so he's thinking, like, how does she?
I was like, how she know I'm about to be there?
Extra attention to my schedule.
That was a mistake of mine. But, I think that gave him even more.
That was was the Holy Spirit?
It must have been.
It's Holy Spirit because you guys are engaged. If it didn't work out, it would have been.
And let me tell you, she came to that launch looking good. Great conversations. It was just. Man, it was great. It was awesome.
So those are the two things: looking good and great conversation. And she said you made you laugh, which obviously all guys love to laugh. Girls do too, but I think guys extra. Like, guys really like to laugh.
Yeah. No, that's good. And I think I love that. like sometimes when you hear like, oh, why do I gotta be looking good for somebody? Why I gotta do all of that? But it really does stand out. Like me and Pauline still joke about. I remember this skirt that she wore before we started talking, that she wore intentionally to get my attention. I still remember it. That was appropriate, but
okay, Pauline, I see you.
Yes.
It
Yes.
But it was nice, and I still remember that. So that is important. So all right, we're at the launch. Y'all have this good conversation. When does the first date happen? How long did y'all date? Kind of walk us through that period.
Yeah. So it wasn't even our first date, but our actual like real hangout was actually on the launch. We did a group. I had a bunch of friends. Obviously, this is talking about the flowers launch, by the way. So I had a bunch of friends that lived in like the PG area, and I had invited them to church at that time, and I was like, there's a bunch of friends and mutual friends too, like people that she also had known, girls and guys, and we're like, hey, let's go to Milk and Honey or something like that. And Karen was playing so hard to get. She was like, I got things to do. Like, I don't know. She said, maybe you can Slack me. I'm like, go Slack. Like,
she said, hit my work email.
Hit my work
email.
Call my secretary.
But best believe I hit up on Slack. I was like, hey, we're going out, get some food. It's probably like 6 or so of us. Would love for you to come through and just hang out and chill. And she still said no. She's like, I don't think so. I don't know. I don't necessarily know if that's the exact word you said, but you're like, it's kind of unlikely. And I was like, dang, okay. But I either I said something or she said something. She's like, are you guys still there? Type of thing. I think she had like a change of heart. I'll let her maybe talk about that later. But she ended up coming, and I just wanted to make like, obviously, like we're in a friend setting, but I wanted to make sure that she knew that I was interested. So just paid special attention to her, made sure even though it was a group outing, still, paid for and offered to pay for her food.
Okay,
and stuff
give us
like
the
that.
tips.
Like, yeah, like she was struggling with her water bottle a little bit, went open it up, little things like that. And I think later that day, and it was so funny because I went into that day like, okay, like I know I'm gonna like express interest, but I didn't necessarily know how far I was gonna take it. But I don't know, I just felt peace in my heart. It's like this feels natural. And so ended up getting her phone number that night, and we started texting, and things started dating officially maybe a month later or so. And yeah. Karen, I miss any details? Go ahead.
No, that was good. I didn't say no. I said maybe.
You said it's unlikely. Don't bet on it.
Karen, did you give him?
That was pretty accurate.
Did you give him your number after he paid for your food? Was it like, all right, like I'm gonna give you my number?
No, he so after it was like a little bit after, because he paid for my food. We ate, we're still having conversation. He walked me to my car and we're like having conversations. And by the time he was like walking me to my car, I think there was mutual interest. And so I was like, okay, enough. Like, I'm not about to also play this. Slack me and maybe I'll give you my phone. It's fine. So when he asked me, like, I didn't hesitate. Yeah.
That's dope. First of all, Raph, you different, bro. Paying for somebody's meal before y'all ever even went on a date. I feel like a lot of guys are like, yo, that's crazy.
But I think it's smart to do the group date. Like, so it's still like a safe environment. And it wasn't a huge group. We said like 6 or 7 people, and it was mutual friends you all had. So it was still, like a safe environment. So it wasn't a ton of pressure, especially like to talk the entire time. But also, like, well, I'm gonna create an opportunity out of this, for her and I to be one-on-one and to like share my interest.
And best believe, even during those conversations, like, and I'm sure she was too, I was paying attention to what she was saying, right? We were talking about, and that was during like the relationship series. So we're talking about like singleness, we're talking about like dating, or we're talking about like literally all those topics during like that month of February. I'm like, I like what I'm hearing.
She's not crazy.
I was listening too. I said, let him not say nothing crazy. I would drive out of here.
Right. But I think that's even so good to like hear that in the group setting, because a lot of times people, number one, want to know that stuff before they make a decision, which I think is smart if you can do that. And this is again the benefit of like dating within community, if you're able, on kind of like ear hustling and like hearing things and like, you know, just trying to see how that person acts and the things that they say. Because people say wild things like, oh yeah, like I don't really believe in abstinence, it doesn't take all that. It's okay, well, I'm gonna head out. But you know, if people are saying things that you like and, you know, paying attention when you're in those group settings, and I think that there are some guys who do pay attention and there are other guys who don't. So guys, make sure you're paying attention.
Yeah.
But I think too, like, just like, I love the melding of the two. It doesn't have to just be one-on-one, or like a group setting means there's no romantic opportunity at all. Like, that's not how it has to be. Like, you can work your window, create a window. To talk to somebody that you might be interested in.
For sure. Now, let's fast forward to the proposal time. Raph, I don't know about you, bro, but that time for me was stressful. Trying to make sure you get all the details right, get all the plans right. You know, we women are guys, so we're not out here lying to our women on the regular. So now we gotta be kind of concealing things, and it's just hard. So what was that time like for you leading up to it? And then tell us a little bit about your actual proposal, how it went.
Yeah, that was such a crazy time. Literally, I remember like after, I'm jumping forward a little bit, after the proposal, as great as the night as it was, great as everything went, I remember I was so sick the next day after. And I think it's literally because I was just like worrying and stressed about like how everything was going to plan out. And then like after it happened, I was like, my body was like, okay. You should like
time to let all this out
and like relax. But it's funny. I even the whole proposal process, I involved people, mutual friends of ours, to make sure that everything was not just according to how I will want it, but even just getting a perspective of who Karen wanted and like what the type of proposal that she wanted as well. And I'm a little bit of perfectionist, so like I'm very detailed in like having everything right. It's so funny because we're setting up at the day of the proposal. People were calling me a groomzilla already. So I was like, oh man, like let me get out of here. Y'all got it. Let me take my talent somewhere else. But the whole proposal, I don't know if you guys want me to actually walk through like what the whole idea was, but essentially I reached out to my manager. I was like, how can I get this girl to believe that she's just going on a regular date? And so I involved actually my manager, where I work at my job, and I had him send me an email or an IM basically saying like, hey, like I got like tickets for this place, but I can't go. It's near where you live. And I sent her the screenshot. She's like, oh my God, I get to go this thing, like dressed up, all this stuff.
It was a very bougie place. I was like, ah!
Yeah, I was like, yeah, girl, you know, go on your best dress, you know, all that stuff. And she asking me what I'm about to wear. I'm like, oh, you know, I'm just gonna wear like this nice double-breasted suit. She's like, okay. So we always get nice dress. We don't necessarily go that crazy out. So I thought that might have gave it away, but she was still like under the impression like everything was okay. It's funny, like so many, and this is how I know my woman hears from the Lord, but so many times leading up until the engagement, Karen would just randomly be talking about marriage like so deeply. And I remember like so many times she was like, hey, what do you think about like marriage and all that? I don't know why you're into like that. Obviously the Holy Spirit, but she kept asking me questions about like marriage. And we had talked about marriage plenty of times before, but this is like, it seemed more urgent. It's like, yo, do you know something? Like,
was that intentional, Karen?
It wasn't. Honestly, it was just like the week prior to the engagement and stuff, I was just really thinking heavily on marriage. I started praying for like people that will bless like us financially during the wedding. I started thinking a lot about my name change and how soon I would be changing my names, and like praying over like just detaching from that. Like so it was just weird. It was just things like God was putting on my mind. I don't know.
Yeah. A lot of things, and I would just be really short with it. Like that's cool. Yeah, just kind of thought, but she didn't think nothing of it. Long story short, we get to the actual day. I say I leave my wallet at my apartment, which is
Believable.
Because I do forget things. And because, we have certain boundaries, you don't go into my apartment. We went to our rooftop. I was like, hey, just give me a second. I'll meet you up there. I'm just gonna go ahead and get my wallet. And then she walked up there. There was the saxophone playing, our closest friends and family, rose petals leading her out into the courtyard. But it was beautiful. There are so many practical things that also like went in to that day that could have went wrong, but I just know God covered us. Like number one, she didn't want to get her nails done. She didn't want to get her. And listen, she always does this stuff, but like today, she was just being really like just not in it. I was like, girl, if you do not go,
don't even bring that up on here.
Raph, oh Lord, that is a whole thing.
Yeah, so
it wasn't the time. It wasn't my week to get my nails done. And listen, we got a budget. So I wasn't gonna get it done.
I know, but it's just if y'all seen our podcast before, y'all know about our story because Pauline,
it's my fault.
I tried to pay. It was just a mess. Long story short, she didn't get her nails done. But hey,
we got married.
You married.
You're married. Hey, you got married. But it was beautiful. It's just it was ours. We made it special, and I think a lot of times when people get warped up in the engagement season, how should it look? I want to make it look like someone else. You got to stick true to who you are, and I think we made sure that our proposal was us. We even made sure, like, yes, we wanted to have our friends and family, but like we wanted to still have like an intimate moment. So like the actual proposal was just really us and the photographers and stuff like that. And so I think when people say, "What's the best proposal?" What's the like? You have to do what's best for you guys. You should know your partner well enough where you should have those type of conversations to see what they may like. They may not want a lot of people. They may want an intimate thing. So having those conversations, don't stress that it's just about you guys at that moment.
No, I love that. And I agree. For people that are listening, how did y'all have those conversations without it feeling awkward or weird? Because I can see somebody listening like, I don't know, we can have those conversations and then they expected me to propose the next day. Yeah. Like, how did y'all do that?
I mean, I think we've always been very, very honest with each other and like our expectation and when we wanted. And I will say, like, at the beginning of your relationship, you're not talking about marriage and like seriousness. We're big believers on like having fun and joy and laughter. Like that's really, really important, and focusing a lot on that at the beginning of a relationship instead of all the heavy topics. But I think once you get to a certain point where it's like, okay, like I really do see myself marrying this person and I want to, I think those conversations are okay to have. You don't have them every day, but it's like, hey, babe, like this is what I would want for my proposal. I think I mentioned, and I only probably mentioned it like once, maybe twice. But again, I have communities. So it's like he could reach out to my best friend and ask what she wants. So I think that also helps. But I say like the conversations, I don't think maybe I'm biased, but I don't think the conversations are awkward when you guys are both on the same page about where you're headed. I think it's a little bit awkward when you guys are on the same page. Maybe some person has like a quicker timeline than the other, but we both had like the same timeline. We talked about that earlier on in our relationship. Like we were never planning to only date for like 7-8 months. I think that's when we got engaged. That was Jesus. But but we talked about our guidelines. For us, it was like a year, maybe not more than like a year and a half or something of dating. And so I feel like if you have those conversations, as time progresses, it becomes natural to talk about it. And I wasn't tripping because I was like, I know he wants to marry me, so
it's gonna happen.
We'll propose eventually. Yeah. Like, we got to plan a wedding.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't like asking about it or searching for it. Like he's a man of his word. Like I know that he loves me and I love him and we want to get married, so it's gonna happen.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Did y'all go through a similar process with the ring? Because I know that's a big thing for a lot of ladies. That rock need to be right.
Like,
did you send pictures? Like, what was
it's
that?
So funny. She had maybe like 4 or 5 months into our relationship had sent me like an engagement ring, but it was literally just like the design type. It wasn't actually like it was probably like a $200 ring or something like that. And I joked all the time, like, this is what I'm gonna get you. And she was like, no, I was just trying to show you like the shape and like what the type of thing, like not the actual like thing. But it's so funny. Thankfully to her best friend Debbie, I was able to kind of get information like her ring size or like the actual specifics that she wanted, and asking her sisters and asking her mom too. We have that relationship, so been over their house many times before. Um, Doing that, I was able to also ask her parents for her permission to marry and all that type of stuff. So like, I made sure that I wasn't just going rogue in my taste.
Yeah.
Make sure that it was something that she liked, and I think she was happy with the result.
I was
Yeah.
very
The
happy.
whole theme of community is still
Yeah.
coming up.
Oh, for us, like community is
Yeah.
huge. Like that's our saving grace. That's our saving grace. Like
Yeah.
we are wise, but we're not that wise. Like we
Yeah.
really aren't. It's really, and I just like pray for everyone. Like you guys have such a big community, but for those that are like listening in, like God can really give you community. And that has been for us, just even as singles, as individuals, like a lot of like what we've learned, the wisdom that we've had in our relationship is because of the people around us, you know. So
Yeah.
it's huge for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
great. So we get this question all the time, and we're really curious for y'all. How did you know each other was the one? And not that we necessarily.
Mhm.
Well, I'm saying that because that's how a lot of people ask it. Now, I'm not saying that we're the one,
We don't.
but how did y'all know this is the person that I want to marry? How did you have that peace, that confidence?
Yeah, especially since you all Karen just shared, you guys talked about, a longer timeline than what you had. So I would even love, Raph, for you to share like what made you feel like, all right, it's sooner than what now is the time versus waiting a year.
Yeah. I think it's so funny. I have a love-hate relationship with this question as well. I think there's so many things that go into. I think the first thing that I would say is it's never really just one thing. At least it wasn't for me. It is an accumulation of things. And Pastor Stephen or preachers would say all the time, like never just use one scripture to kind of like justify something. Like get supporting evidence, see it through time, see it through seasons. And I think for me going into the relationship, I knew the type of values and type of things that I was looking for in a wife, in a spouse. And Karen, time after time after time, just continue to show up in a lot of those areas. I won't name all of them, but one of them for sure is definitely I want someone I could have fun with.
Yeah.
Like that is so. If anyone that knows me, like I like to have fun. And I ain't gonna lie, Karen in Union Church, thinking like the daughter of the temple. I was like, I don't know if she might be dry, but like,
Crazy about
I
you.
was pleasantly surprised. I was like, oh, you got jokes. You actually like, okay, like we can laugh, we can have a good time. I remember one time she sat and she watched a whole Ravens game with me, and before that, I don't know if she ever watched anything longer than 10 minutes. I'm like, oh, this is great. Like, this is
Did you enjoy
awesome.
it, Karen?
I did. It was fun. It was fun watching him watch as well. So
You were watching him watch.
But that was big. I think too. I think as men, even though we hate to admit it, but we really do value a safe space and a safe space that our partner can create for us. And I remember we were talking at one point, and we're talking about actually family. And I was sharing with Karen some pretty vulnerable stuff about like my childhood, especially like my relationship with like my dad. And I honestly don't necessarily remember the exact words that she might have said, but I just remember how I felt in that situation. And I felt safe, I felt heard, I felt seen. And that was something that was really big and important for me, knowing that a lot of my values are centered around like honor and just feeling, I don't know, feeling even in my lowest points, still worthy, still feeling like a king. And I think for me, I was like, this woman not only says that she cares about me, but she's showing it in her actions. She's showing it in these conversations that we're having. And so I was like, yeah, that's it.
I love that. I think you just gave language to a lot of guys out there who are like, oh, I don't really know what wife material looks like and sounds like. Of course, when people say things like, oh, I want somebody like my mom, and like that's good-ish, but like you don't want a mom, you want a wife, right? There are obviously laps. but I love that you know, especially the vulnerability piece, like when you shared something with her that was vulnerable and she responded with, honestly, it sounds like you responded with respect, Karen, of like, all right, I don't think less of you because of something that you went through or something that happened to you. And I appreciate you sharing that with me. And I'm like, you like keeping this as like a delicate moment. And I honestly think that's something that so many of us women miss out on, like in the dating phase. It's very like, you're not a man, like what, like this happened to you, like this is how you view that, like this still hurts you. Like women are not really prepared to see that side of the man, and I promise every man has that side. No matter if you're the president of the United States or you are, you know, just somebody who's like kind of a low level worker or whatever. I don't care who you are, no matter what you've been through. Every person has hurt and has things, they have vulnerability. And there's so many men who, like, honestly, they don't share things with their wives because their wives don't handle it well. And for you as even a girlfriend at that time to be able to recognize, like, okay, this is a sacred moment. This is something that I want to handle with gentleness, because that's a fruit of the spirit, right? Like, and that's something that the Lord helps us to cultivate. And I will say it is pretty hard to be gentle with a man when you have not experienced the gentleness of God. So if God hasn't been gentle with you as a woman, because, you know, especially women, we feel like, oh, we got to be tough, we got to be strong out here. You know, everyone's upbringing is different. Like maybe you had a father in the house, maybe you didn't, and even if your father was there, who, like, it just can be messy. I just really want to applaud you for that, Karen. I feel like so many women listening will be blessed by that, because so many times we're pushing our men away when they, you know, we have all this fun with them and we kind of like make them feel like they're safe and like, oh, she's funny, like she likes the Ravens, like this is cool, this is work. And then he's like, all right, I'm about to share something with you, and then you just totally like pretty much rip down everything that you've built up. And the Bible talks about that, how a woman can tear down a house with her words. And I don't think that we just don't recognize those moments enough, just because, like I said, a lot of times we haven't experienced gentleness from God on our own. So I just really appreciate you sharing that, Raph, and then for Karen, you living it out, because a lot of us women don't recognize that that's something that we need to work on to be a wife.
Yeah. Wow, that's so many gems, Molly. That was really good. I think I mean, I think even as a single woman, before that incident happened, I think there's just decisions that we all have to make as individuals of like how we want to show up, right? And I think as a single woman, even prior to meeting Raphael, honor and respect and safety for my spouse before I ever knew my spouse was something that was like very, very important to me, because life is tough. And it's hard. And you know, by the grace of God, you want to create an environment that's like safe, because once your family member, what is your kids, wife, like husband, once they exit the doors of your home, there's just so much attack, right? Not even just spiritually, but like work, like it's a lot of pressure. And so creating a safe space had always been like really important to me. And that's something that I had to like work on, because I am not, when you think of Karen, for a very long time, I was very direct. I could be very harsh, like very gentle was not connected to my name. And so it's only a testimony of God for him to experience like this version of me. So it is, and I say that to share, like, you don't have to be like a soft-spoken person to show gentleness to people that you love, and show that to your spouse, show gentleness to your significant other. If it's something that you desire, God really can like work on your heart to be able to create that for other people. And he did that for me. It's not something that I'm like naturally just predisposed to, but like through the years, it's just something that I've worked on. So
that's so good, because I mean, like you said, some people do mask gentleness as like being soft-spoken, and it's definitely not the same. And to your point, nobody is naturally like God. Like any fruit of the spirit, love, joy, peace, goodness, kindness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, none of those things are natural for anybody. That's why we need the Holy Spirit. So if anyone's like, oh yeah, I'm naturally disciplined, I'm like, no, you're not. Like maybe you're disciplined in one area of your life, but like your room is a mess. Like just because you eat clean doesn't mean your whole entire life is discipline. So I think that we all have areas of our life before, during, and after marriage like praying through the Holy Spirit, praying through all the fruits of the Spirit to bear those fruits that only happen, of course, when we spend time with the Lord and get to know him better and experience those parts of him. So I love that you shared that, because people are always asking, oh, what can I do to prepare for marriage, or like whatever. It's like be with the Lord. Like developing those fruits of the Spirit are going to make you a better friend, make you a better sister, daughter, son, whatever, whatever roles you hold in any relationship. The fruits of the Spirit it's not a natural thing, because a lot of times in this day and age, people think, oh, I make this, I've done this, I look like this, I love God, why am I not married? And it's like, that's the beginning, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's good to be saved, and it's good to love God, and it's good to pursue him in whatever way you do that, but like, we're all works in progress, and none of us have mastered the fruits of the Spirit. And I'm sure, Karen, like you could probably think of times where you're like, oh yeah, I was gentle in that instance that Raph just mentioned, but I also wasn't gentle with my mom that same day. So like, it's not like a permanent fix. It's more of like, I'm always growing in this. So I love that you shared that, like, hey, I wasn't always like that. And like, it probably wasn't time for me to date before I was
absolutely,
in that area.
Yeah.
And it's funny y'all said that, because like, I think it just speaks to the testimony of like what it takes to have a good relationship. It's work. And I think a lot of people think just because even where your relationship starts at is how it's always going to be.
Yeah.
We made it a priority to work on our relationship. We're doing it now, even as we get ready for our wedding, by doing things like our Symbis or premarital counseling, or having like our weekly check-ins. Just because something is good doesn't mean it's going to always stay good, and doesn't mean it doesn't have the potential to be great. And so I think one of the things for us is like, it's easy for people to be like, oh, you guys are good, you can do this, or you just keep going how you are. But like, we made it a priority not to take our relationship for granted.
Yeah.
And I think it's helped us in a lot, and just actually producing the fruit that we want to see. So
yeah, I love that. Raph, you said something earlier that I really want to call out, because I think it'll help a lot of people. You said how you looked at Karen from afar before you really knew her, and you were like, oh, I don't know if she's fun, I don't know if her personality is this way. And honestly, I felt very similar thoughts towards Pauline before I got to know her. Like, she was very, I'm a leader, I'm serious, I'm blah, blah, blah. That's how it came across. And God is so kind that he allowed me to be able to see her in the settings outside of church. And I was able to see different sides of her. And I think that's the point I want to hit on here, especially for somebody that has the opportunity to date somebody within their church.
Yeah.
And you're looking at like, their personality doesn't fit what I'm looking for. You don't really know that. What you see at church is not all that somebody is. So this may be a sign, this may be an opportunity for you to just take a step of going out to coffee, going out to dinner, going out with somebody that you think isn't a good fit for you, but you don't know because you don't really know them. And giving somebody a chance really, it just can open up some doors that you may not even know about.
Yeah, that's it's like for us, I was Tim's supervisor at work. I was his leader at church. So he pretty much only saw me in a leadership capacity where I'm like giving orders and kind of overseeing things and managing things. But even as you all share, like, okay, like being out in a group setting, like at a restaurant, like where it's chill, where Karen's not, leading and thinking about work and all that stuff. And same thing for you, Raph, where it's like, all right, well, let's kind of just relax. Like, let's be in a relaxed setting. That is so important. And like, because I think there are so many guys out there, they're like, oh, there's no girls. Like, everybody here is so this or so that. And it's like, well, that's why it's important to get out into different environments, but with the same people. Because sometimes we go in different environments and we like somebody, like if we're in a comfortable environment, like let's say, like Raph mentioned the Ravens, right? So let's say you're at like a Ravens game and you're like, oh, the girls here are so fun. And like, this is great. But it's like, okay, her in that environment. See the same girl in a different environment and see if you still like what you see. And obviously you date somebody and you get to be around their family and you see different parts of them that are important as well. But I think that it's like you said, we kind of have blinders on where it's like, oh, but I already know them because I've seen them in this one capacity. But remembering everybody has sides to themselves. Everybody has depths to who they are. So before, even if you have like an inkling of interest in anybody, like just try to see them in a different environment, because like Raph mentioned, you mentioned earlier about like, okay, like it can be very easy to like hesitate or feel like, oh yeah, well this probably isn't gonna work. And there's so many guys who are trigger shy. Lord Jesus help. Like there's so many reasons why, oh, I'm not ready today. Oh, she wouldn't like me, or I don't think I like her. And it's like, well, dang, like, can we at least just take some faith? Like just a little bit, like let's just probably take a baby toe step, like try to figure something out. That's a really good practical step you're giving people.
Yeah,
it's funny because it wasn't just for me too. Like Karen also had you know, things she could have believed about me or kind of wrote me off. I think even one of the advice that she had gotten from someone was like, oh, like was it like my personality? Because she had only seen me at that point before I was aware of her, only had seen me through Union College, and I think I gave like a ministry moment or something like that. And I think one of the feedback that you got from someone was like, "Oh, like his personality is kind of like." I think she said my personality was dry, which is
she was. Yeah, I think it's too dry for Karen. Like she likes more like fun and animated. And then luckily someone else was in the group, and they basically share what you guys just shared. Like you've only seen him in this one scenario. There's no way you can take a conclusion based off of that. Like, and so she was like, just have a conversation with him. And I was like, okay.
And church can be so weird like that. We're like, oh my gosh, I don't like the way the person's worships. Like, what? Like, leave them alone. They're having time with God.
No, and then that was the I guess kind of the positive side, but also like you guys said, we knew each other during college. I was not necessarily where I needed to be with the Lord during college, doing things, yada yada. But I remember like one of the big things for Karen at the time was she didn't want to date anyone that was involved in Greek life, and you know that's my past. And so like I remember our first conversation about that, and she was like, she acted like, oh, like I don't really care, but it was all over her face. And so like I made sure, like, okay, we talked about it, we addressed it. Okay, this is what happened while I was in college. This is not who I am. Yada yada. Just be able to talk. Don't be scared to talk through someone's maybe concerns. Like I think a lot of things. Oh, you know, what right do you have? Like you don't know. Like no, like let them know. Like fill them in on who you really are. And hopefully your actions can back it up. So yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good. So did you bring it up, Raph, or did you ask him like about his life in college?
How did it come up? We were talking about college.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't remember how the frat came up. Do you remember?
I want to say I think I brought it up.
You probably said something along with like, maybe I feel like he probably mentioned something. He was like, yeah, my line brother. Something like that probably. Okay. And then that conversation started. I'm like, line brother.
Sorry about that.
And mind you, I was doing all that already knowing that he was right. But you know, you had to pretend that you didn't know something.
Yeah, you gotta be discreet.
Yeah. But again, to y'all's point, that's why conversation. I think you guys are right. Like I think especially in church, we write off people really fast. Because I remember even when someone mentioned that he was you know, had been part of Greek life, I wanted to almost like be like, yeah, nah, it's a dub. But like, look at what I would have missed out on if I didn't like at least entertain the conversation. And again, one great friend was like, hey, just talk. Like, we're like 10 years past college. You don't even know where he's at. And please, like, whoever's listening to this, Greek life, we're not sharing any biases. I'm just sharing like my personal viewpoint and stuff like that. But like, if I hadn't had the conversation, I wouldn't have known where his mind space was at. And you can fill in the blank, whatever concern you have, whether it's whatever it is, like just having a conversation with someone really does help. So
yeah, that's good. So last question I wanted to get to for you all. Has there been anything about your engagement process that you said you may think like this was hard, or I wasn't expecting this, or maybe if we would have known this was going to happen before engagement, we would have made some different decisions? Is there anything like that for y'all?
I'll start. The engagement process has been an interesting, good, full of surprises, but we are trying our best to keep our joy through it no matter what. I think one practical advice that I would give if you have the time depending on how far your wedding is actually take some time to actually not jump right into engagement once you do get engaged.
Mm.
And so we made a very intentional decision, like, hey, like the next 3 or 4, whatever weeks, we're gonna like just be newly engaged. And
Yeah.
when people ask us when's the wedding, we'll be like, we don't know because we haven't
Right.
started talking about it. We just, I think even after, I think maybe even maybe a few days after, a week after, we just had like a day just to reflect on like our engagement, like because like the day happened so fast. Like what you like about it, like I don't know. We really took some time to kind of like um sit in it,
Yeah.
and I think it kind of helped set the vision for our engagement process and even like our wedding moving forward as well.
Yeah.
That's really good. Yeah, that was a big one, and I think that really helped. I think I would say it's very easy to become overly consumed with like planning a wedding.
Yeah.
Because I mean, for most of us, it's probably like the biggest event we'll plan, you know? And so it's a lot. It's a lot of like project management, it's a lot of people management. You're
Yeah.
dealing with family, you're
Yeah.
dealing with vendors, you're dealing with finances.
Yeah.
So for us, like it can be a lot. And so it's easy to just like really focus on the wedding. But one thing that we've done that has really helped, and I honestly, I think I told Raph, I wish we even started this earlier, is really make sure that we spent intentional time like preparing for like the marriage, right?
Yeah.
And so for us, that looked like premarital counseling through church. But someone also gave us an advice to not just do premarital counseling because it's great, and I think it was like a good starter. You have like the assessment and stuff, but we actually hired a therapist. And so our last session was last week because we're literally about to get married, but we did 6 sessions. Was it 5 or 6 sessions with a licensed therapist? And was able to just like talk through some stuff, whether it was just issues that we've had in our relationship or also more, or even like individual issues, like family issues, child issues, like when we were children that could affect our relationship, and like how to support each other in that, how to walk through that. Of course, you can't clear up everything. It's different once you get married and you're living with the person every single day, so different questions bring things up. But it has definitely helped us at least just have more compassion for each other, understanding of like why we do certain things the way that we do it. And I think that like you spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a wedding, so spending 1,000 whatever it is for a therapist is worth it.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's been
and just one more thing I want to add to Karen, and therapy. It's funny because I was like, I don't know how I feel. Like I don't know if you necessarily need it, but I'm so glad we did premarital therapy. Another thing that I would add though is even just like in planning the wedding, when we first actually started to plan our wedding, we actually got into an argument. It's probably one of our more serious arguments, and it was based off of just like I guess we had the same vision as far as we wanted to make sure that we had obviously a good um, planning process, engagement process, and a good wedding, but we had different ways of getting to that method. And so, like for me, I'm more so like I said, I'm a planner, so I'm like, hey, let's just knock everything out. But the goal is to be able to rest because I don't want to be talking about our wedding every single day throughout the day. Karen is also like, hey, I want to have this same thing too, but I want to kind of like talk about it like 15 minutes a day. And like to me, like I'm thinking like we're still talking about it too much longer than what it is. And so like I think we had like the conversation, okay, like what is like the vision? The vision is like we don't mind for this season sacrificing more time than we might normally would to get to our end goal. So I think like honestly, when we first started planning, like within the first month or so, we're like, hey, let's knock all this stuff out so that December, January, whatever, we can chill on the back end. And so like, we both had the idea of like we don't want to be doing this forever, but just kind of getting on the same page of how that actually looked and how that worked for us. And then two, the second thing I would say, the practically that helped us is just making sure that you don't wear what people say about you guys' season. And I think it's very easy for a lot of times when you talk to people about the engagement process, like, Oh man, like
So
I don't know
hard.
how y'all making it. Y'all so it's just man, I know y'all kind of like no, I'm like, no, we're good. Like we're actually enjoying the process. Like not saying it's sweet, not saying like it's not like, but I think like our words are so important, like our outlook on it, things, and it's so easy to kind of just wear that um I guess the stigma of what it takes to plan a wedding, but you have to constantly fight through that. And I think we did that as well during our process.
Yeah. That's so good. Karen, I agree with you. I wish we would have got here sooner because what y'all just said the past 5 minutes was just so rich. And I really hope people listening like really, really lock in and remember that because I agree with everything y'all said. From the point of when y'all first got engaged, y'all decided, look, we're not about to be talking about the wedding yet. And we did the same thing. We got very similar advice. We didn't take as long as y'all did. We did like a week. But we actually took that week after we got engaged and fasted. And we were like, let's hear from God. Like, God, when do you want us to get married? Like, I know what we want to do, but when do you want us to do?
Because we weren't on the same page about the date.
Yeah. What do you want this to look like? And I think that really helps center us. So, because it is so easy to get and so much into the flowers and what I want this to look like. And now, we got Instagram and TikTok and in your mind, you're competing with stuff you've seen. Yeah. And it's hard. Yeah. And I think being able to really just relax for a little bit helps. And then I love the point about the therapist. Yeah. And maybe it's not therapist for you. Maybe there's something online that you can get that's more cheaper for what your budget is, but do something else outside of premarital counseling. We did that as well. We didn't go see a therapist. I don't even think we thought about that. That's a great idea. But there was this online engagement boot camp that we did. In person. Oh, sorry. Yes, that's right. It was in-person engagement boot camp with other couples outside of our church. We still did our premarital at our church, but we did that plus that. And we're so glad that we did more than just the, couple sessions here and there for premarital because that's not enough. And like Karen said, never going to be fully prepared for marriage. Right. So that's not what we're saying. But you can be more prepared than if you just go and do nothing.
I also think it just gets you in the habit of investing into your relationship. Like Karen said with money, like people literally have no problem dropping $60K on weddings. But then when you talk about, like premarital counseling, therapists cost money. It doesn't cost as much as your wedding costs. And your wedding is literally one day. All you're gonna walk away with are the pictures. You don't get to take anything else with you. I mean, maybe your dress, like whatever, but are you gonna wear that again? Probably not. So I just think you have to think about, like this is your wedding day is literally this beginning of the marathon. Like you want to be prepared for the marathon. The wedding is fun and it's awesome, and you absolutely should have the wedding of your dreams as much as possible. But that's not why you're there. Like the work literally begins when everybody leaves and you guys are on your honeymoon or you go home together, whatever, people choose to do after their wedding. Like that's when the work starts. And you want to look forward to that. You don't want to be afraid for that. You want to say, okay, I have a couple of tools in my toolbox that I got from these sessions or from this counseling, coupled with what I already know about you and, kind of move forward from there. So I love, and like really I'm proud of y'all for making that investment because a lot of people don't. And even, like that's what we're so passionate about is even people making those investments beforehand. Like people literally spend so much money and so much time, at least 12 years, most of us this day and age, 16 years going to school. And a lot of people go get their masters and all that stuff to be in a career for possibly like 30 to 40 years. And then we get married, wanting to be married for the same amount of time, possibly 30, 40, 50, even 60 years, but we go in with no training. How does that make sense? How do we think that we're going to be successful? Walk into something blind that you're not prepared for. It's like you said, do premarital. Some people, this is their reason for why they date for forever. Doesn't really matter. Like you can never be ready, but I think just like getting in the habit of investing, because when you go to premarital counseling and you go to these sessions, it's not going to be as much as a fight when you're married to go to counseling and to reach out to your mentors and to ask your parents for help. You're like, this is who we are. We've done this since, before we even got married. Like it's not a big deal for us to ask for help, versus couples who don't. It is harder for them to reach out. So I think that's a really good model you guys shared.
Yeah, that's so good. Y'all been so generous with y'all time. Thank y'all so much. If there's any final thing you want to say, or if you just want to let people know how they can connect with y'all, definitely feel free to share that.
Tell them where they can send you money.
Cash App this. No, I'm kidding. No, I don't. I mean, I'm just really excited for whoever's listening to this. Have hope, keep hope. Like, I feel like I waited for some time and I was very frustrated as I was like waiting. And I know how it can get, but whatever God has for you is absolutely worth the wait. I tell Raphael, like, I would wait longer that it was him. So just wait. Like, he has a really great story and he has not forgotten about you, because I know that that's how I felt at times. He hasn't forgotten. So yeah.
Oh, I don't know how to follow that up.
That's so
beautiful. I would just say again, thank y'all for having us, and for people that are watching this, please pray for us. Our wedding, not just our wedding day, but our marriage. Thank you to everyone that has invested in our relationship thus far, all of our friends and family. Y'all know who you are. We love you guys. And yeah, we can't wait to start our lives together.
Love it. Prayers up for sure. This has been another episode of the W Podcast. Thank you for listening, and we'll see y'all next week.
Bye.
Thanks for watching this video.
To get more Christian relationship advice, subscribe to our channel.
And make sure you check out our other videos as well.